the important bit is stitch along here. And make sure you're definitely at a 45 degree. And pause here. And then you have to tilt it 90 degrees and sew directly across. So, this. Ooh. Then tilt it 90 degrees and flip over the ribbon, push it gently against the needle, and then stitch straight along. And when you get to the end of the nibble, then we need to do the 90 degrees. And then you tilt it this way, again, and then you do another stitch. And you just keep on going. You can see exactly the same results. The only difference is it's a bit slower because you have to flip it back and forth, but stream forward. If you're going to be using the zigzaggers, I would stitch this first. I would definitely be stitching on your markings first. It doesn't work so well to sew over top of the edges of the ribbon. It just gets caught. So I do that first and then do your ribbon. So off we go. The important bit is to make sure we've got that. Let's put the needle down for a second. Here we are using the Singer Zigzag attachment on my 201, and I've got stabilizer underneath, and what we're doing is we're just going to trim the edges of the ribbons here. And one more. Okay. And then, so you can see that looks okay. I thought it would be fun to show you some ribbon work I've been doing on a number of machines and just seeing the sort of techniques and tricks that you can do. Here we have a crisscross ribbon, and I'm going to demonstrate this, and then on this side we've got one type of stitching and this on another type of decorative stitching. There are a couple options. You could just stitch there where the ribbon is and leave the blank, which makes it a little more dramatic. Or I've done some work here with wide stitches down the middle of the ribbon. Now I realized after it needed to have stabilizer to keep it from puckering, but that wasn't the end of the world. It was just sort of an interesting discussion or test. And here I've put sort of letters down the middle which give kind of interesting effect, and some little flowers. So lots of different decorative stitches to work with the ribbons, which just gives a nice interesting look. However, what I really wanted to do is demonstrate this technique here, how to wind the ribbon. Now I've used yellow thread so you can see it, but if you used white you wouldn't see that stitch there. The interesting part is what I've done on my FAF Creative Vision. So this works on pretty much any straight stitch machine. But on this particular one, what I've done is programmed it. So here, you can see it sort of here, and if I show you the look I call ribbon test, I could rename it to something else. But it looks essentially like that. So I'll select it and open it up. And I programmed this in before to do the work and to take advantage of the sideways sewing on this machine. So what it will do is it will lock the stitches, then it'll sew down, it'll sew across, and that's when you pull the ribbon across. You can see I put a stop there. And then it goes down and it goes back, and there's a stop there as well, so I can pull the ribbon over. And basically just repeats, 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 repeats. So I want to demonstrate how this works and looks when you're actually doing the stitching. So one moment while I put the camera on the tripod. This is one of those stitches where it benefits actually to use the play button, which I don't normally use on this machine. Normally I just use the foot controller. But in this case it helps a lot to do the stitching using that technique. So we're going to just use this play button, which is up here. Now, one thing that's really important is you have to know where your 45-degree angle is. In this case here, what I've done is I've actually traced the blue line, but I'm going to do it without, just for the fun of it. So what you have to start with is where you're going to stitch directly down, and it has the ribbon has to be at a 45-degree angle. After that, you just sew in the direction you need. It's only at the very start you have to make sure you get your 45-degree angle correct. So let's start here and press go. So lower the foot control, or the foot, so that it stitches, and I'll lower the speed a bit just so it doesn't take off. So it's locking the stitches now, and now it's going to sew sideways. I didn't get my 45-degree angle perfect, but that won't matter for the start. So the important bit is you need to raise the foot slightly and pull the ribbon up. In fact, you should use the needle down position. It makes it a lot easier. So we'll put the needle down position, and then when you pull the ribbon across, you just press the next play button and away we go. Okay. And it's raised the foot for me automatically since the needle down position, and I just press go. Now this time it'll work perfectly. Okay. Bring the ribbon across at a nice 45-degree angle, make sure there are no puckers, press go. So this makes it nice and easy. I don't have to tilt the fabric. Nice and easy. I'm quite glad I was able to program it. The only thing I really don't like about these sideways stitches is they don't do the normal stitch width. They're almost sort of like at 30 stitches per inch or something, rather than where I set it for the straight down stitch. So that's a bit frustrating, and I've not figured a way to get around that on this machine. It might be more available on the newer models, but for the time being this is working just fine. Excuse me. Now you could use some of the fancy stitches and incorporate them in, but because you have to fold the ribbon with this technique, unless you back up, which I could do, I can set the stitch to return to the start after the flip. So if you imagine I do this flip, in order to get the stitches here, I would have to sew across back the ribbon or go up on an angle, and that's certainly possible, but it's easier, I find. It's just as easy at the end of this to go and put my fancy patterns after. So you see, this is quite fast doing this technique, because I don't have to flip the fabric, so I'm really enjoying this. It's the first time I found any value out of these sideways stitches, sewing sideways, directional stitches. I know you can theoretically do it on patches, but because this doesn't have the sort of size that I want in the stitches across, it just doesn't look as good as if I turn the fabric. Oops. Oh, sun's come back out, which is nice. We're having a little bit of a fiddly moment here, but that's okay. Okay, let's do this last one. Perfect. So that's that technique, and you can see just how far I've got now within those few seconds, but you know, you keep going, it'll be done really fast. And then you can do your fancy stitches on the edge, or you could even go across in the middle. There's lots of options. It might be quite fun to program in the machine to do the pattern and sew down that angle. Very doable. I might do that for a later project just for fun, but I wanted to show you that technique and then how to do this on a machine without sideways sewing.